Hello and welcome to LCDC TV, the new news channel for the cab trade. Today, I'll be interviewing mayoral candidate Miss Farah London. And yes, you did hear me correctly, her surname being London. That could be a good omen, who knows? But listen, I'm going to get on with the interview and I hope you really enjoy it. Hello, and I'm delighted today to be introducing Miss Farah London, mayoral candidate, independent mayoral candidate. And before we start, I just want to clear something up. It is your real name, London.
Here's my driver's license. What does it say?
Miss Farah London. That sounds like a good omen to me. Yeah, you wouldn't have to change, you'd just have great stationery, wouldn't you? Miss London, the Mayor of London. That's quite good, isn't it? Listen, we know in London, new mayors needed desperately. Can we have another 3 years, 4 years under calm? You know. I don't think so. You're an independent. Maybe London needs a change from Conservative, Labour. We've had Livingston, then Boris got the mantle, now Khan's got it. It's to in and fro in. Can you tell people there, if they're going to vote for you as mayor, what does London look like under your mayoralship?
It's quite simple. We have been ruined by career politicians. We have been ruined by the Reds and Blues, and now it's time for change. We need an independent voice. Just because our country is governed by a political party, it doesn't mean our city needs to be. It's time we have an independent mayor, because let's face it, this is what's happening now. We have a Labour mayor and we have a Conservative government, and all we see is them toing and throwing stones at each other. Nothing gets done. The people of London, again, neglected. Now, if you bring a mayor from the same party as the government, all he will be doing is being dictated to by number 10. Will he actually be representing the people of London and their needs? No. And that's why we need an independent mayor, an independent voice that will come in and represent the people of London. London has lost its pride. We no longer feel that pride is to be called a Londoner. What does it even mean being a Londoner? I speak to so many people and everyone's so disconnected, and it's time we feel that pride like we did at the time of the Olympics. We feel great about London again, and that's why we need a mayor that's actually going to unite us, not divide us, and bring London back. Most importantly, bring the great things of London that we're not seeing. Get rid of the crime, make it affordable. We are forcing people to leave London because they can no longer afford to live in our city. We need to make sure London is safe for all. Of course, we've all seen what's happened in the last week.
Yeah.
And one thing I have to say is, as a Londoner myself, I've been using black cabs for 26 years. And I always, to this day, will never forget, when you get a black cab and they drop you off at night, they always stay at the door till you open the door and go in. And then they drive off. And that's something you don't get with any other cab service. So all these things is what makes London great. And that's why I am here today to talk to you, talk about my policies, and see what we can do to make you use your vote and make change.
Lovely. I mean, one of the things I want to ask you is that we seem to, when you look at London, for me, London is like the most important business for the UK, because the money, as you know, that's generated in taxes from London helps the whole country. You've been in business from a very early age. Do you think it's important that a mayor has some like basic business acumen that looks at budgets, looks at getting value for money, transport decisions, rather than someone who's just pushed up the front from one of the political parties?
Absolutely. We need a hands-on mayor. We need someone that knows what's going on in everything, in every aspect, and not giving away things and not concerned with what's happening. And that's what we're seeing now. We've got a mayor who, the best thing he has done is serve himself. He hasn't served anyone else. He's given so much power to the councils that now they've become a mafia-style led council. They're doing whatever they want. They're not representing the residents or the people. People have been bullied in their boroughs. That's not acceptable. We've seen that with the LTNs. It's an outcry what's going on. So that's why we need a mayor that's hands-on, that will take control and have leadership. We don't have any leadership right now.
And Farah, regarding the LTNs, because that's a very sore subject for a lot of people watching this.
Rightly so.
Taxi drivers, emergency services, local residents. If you became Mayor of London, what is your plan for LTNs? Would you increase the network, or would you listen to residents and take it all up?
I want to get rid of them, if I'm honest with you. These LTNs are a massive social divide.
Yeah.
And why is it? Because you've got the affluent areas and they're actually making those areas better, and then they're putting these LTNs and forcing the traffic into other neighbourhoods where they're suffering.
Social
so it's a social
housing
divide.
and stuff
Yes,
like that.
It's a social divide. It's unjust, and as we all know, it's been ruled unlawful, and that's why they need to be get rid of. At the end of the day, everything should be done with consultation. One thing I do plan to do is make sure that we address corruption within the councils, is bringing in residents within decision making. So we actually have a representative from the resident society that they can come in and contribute to making decisions, because we don't have that right now.
No.
And that's why the residents are always having to fight. And another thing I definitely plan to do is put an appeal department in City Hall. So anyone that's done badly by their councils, they can actually come and report them, so we can actually investigate what's going on. Because right now there's no accountability. We need to see accountability. Londoners need to have somewhere to go to let us know what's going on.
So basically what you're sort of saying is you want a bit more of a hands-on approach with the residents and a bit more of a common sense approach.
Yes.
Because they're being taken out of the process about how they're going to live their life in that area.
Well, the councillors are doing whatever they want. They're not
thought
consulting.
You voted the council in and they done what you said.
Well, that's the problem. People have put trust into the politicians. They voted in Labour councillors, they voted in the Lib Dem councillors and the Conservative councillors, and they're getting nothing for it. And there's an outcry. Now residents, I've spoken to so many residents all over London, they're now wanting to put independent councillors from the community, because they've seen that they are not being...
They're self-serving, aren't they?
Yes, of course they are.
Yeah. And it's what they perceive as what's good for you, not what the residents are asking for.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous,
It is,
it?
and that's why people have had enough of the politicians. They actually now want to take London back.
So a vote for Farah would be...
A vote for people.
Vote for people. I can't
Simple.
put it better myself. Listen, while we're talking about people, London, living, cheek by jowl and stuff, how would you go about crime? Because I've lived in London all my life, Kennington, Brixton, now I've moved out to Bromley, but I've never been so aware of the criminality on the streets. I've seen it, I've seen muggings, people having terrible fights in the street, there's no police, the police stations are shut, as we saw over the weekend at Clapham, where you had Clapham Common. I know, as a taxi driver doing the knowledge, you knew where all the police stations were in London. Well, you might as well rip that page out of the knowledge
100%.
now, because there was on Saturday with Miss Everard vigil, Cavendish Road police station, that was quite a big prominent South London police station, is shut. Mm-hmm. How would you tackle crime? Escalating crime in London.
Again, the political parties have actually taken away the funding from the police. That's why you're not seeing the police stations anymore. I actually visited every single borough to visit every single police station, and I was horrified. Like, even in Bromley, you've got one small police station there.
Used to be a big one. They shut that. There's luxury flats now.
Bromley's a very big borough. You've got some
the biggest
boroughs,
in London.
You've got some boroughs that don't even have a police station anymore. Barnet doesn't have one. Dagenham, Barking Dagenham, where crime is quite high, including knife crime, there's no police station there. Ilford doesn't have one. I mean, the list can go on. They've closed them. We need to reopen the police stations, especially in the communities that need them the most. But we need to put more police officers, and especially I want to put 8,500 police officers, but I want to dedicate 1,000 to hate crimes, because obviously that's something that has substantially gone up. I really glad I went to visit every police station. I actually wanted to go just to say thank you to them. This was last year, because I just feel they really get the short end of a stick, and no one actually appreciates what they do day in, day out. And they go in every day, serve us, don't complain, just get on with it, get the abuse, and go back to work the next day.
They're putting their life on the line for about 28 grand a year.
Yeah.
I mean,
we need to empower our police, and that's one thing I really will be.
Would you defund the police?
Absolutely not. I'm actually putting more money in there. One thing I will be doing is for our officers, what's really important is their mental and physical well-being. Very important, because they need to be there at work physically and mentally, day in, day out. And they obviously see a lot, they get abused, they get sworn at, attacked even, and they see a lot of tragic things, including suicide, deaths, knife crime, like you said. So one thing I will be doing is giving them free private medical care, which will include counselling, because we need them. We don't want them to be on a waiting list to get help for 7 to 8 months. If they have a serious problem, we need to make sure they get the help.
Do you think a lot of this stems from the fact that they're not getting the support from the upper echelons in the Met Police
leadership.
Service?
It's all leadership.
They're getting abused, they're getting attacked, and nowadays we live in an era where you watch it being filmed on a phone, police officers being attacked, and yet if the police officer dared hit his assailant, there'd be rent-a-mob outside the police station saying, look at that police brutality. It's gone mad.
That's the problem. When I grew up, you saw the police, you respected them.
You're scared of them.
You were scared. But there was a level of respect there.
If they caught you.
They don't have that anymore. And that's because there's no consequences. I plan to introduce zero tolerance against whether it's verbal or physical abuse to our officers, because people need to know that is not acceptable behaviour. You do not get to throw a bottle at a police officer and think that's okay. No, you will get nicked. There has to be consequences to actions. So we need people to understand they're there to just deliver law and order. They're just like us.
Do you think London's become quite I think London's become quite a lawless place.
Yes, because we haven't got the right leadership.
No police.
No.
Shutting police stations. You see gangs of kids on the street and individuals, and it's almost getting to a situation where I know when I drive my cab and you're seeing things and you think, blimey, this don't look good.
Well, see, that's the problem. It's going back to crime. Youth, you just hit on that. Youth are bored. Conservatives have closed the youth centres.
What can they do? Where can they go?
Exactly. That's why I want to open youth academies. And youth academies will focus on performing arts, creative studios and sporting academies from the age of 8 to 21, free academies for them. And they can learn whether it's singing, dancing, acting, filmmaking. We're going to have free recording studios, green rooms, film equipment. So we can actually
When you say free, would it be funded from, would you look for government funding, or would it be on the
I'm doing a combination
council tax?
of government, but also not from government,
Private
from the budget that I have, but also I will be working with the private sector. I've already spoken to parties who actually want to get involved and actually help fund this, because they understand youth are our future. So instead of spending millions on foreign football players, let's make it homegrown. We have the talent here. We just need to empower our youth. I speak to gang members. Why are you doing this? Well, society doesn't have anything for me. I wanted to be a footballer. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a rapper, but I can't do it.
Feel alienated, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Youngsters feel alienated.
The moment you just believe in them. I mentor a lot of youth. And one group I mentor, I'm so proud of them. They're from Dagenham, and they're aged from 16 to 19. And they've set up a record label. And, they've signed 4 artists. They're so young. But guess what? They can't afford to go to a recording studio.
Yeah. So you're giving them that, you want London youngsters to be given that leg up.
Exactly.
That arm, pull them up, don't push them away.
I want them to know that they have a future.
Yeah, exactly.
Their future isn't crime, it isn't.
Well, if they have a future, then London has a future in the future.
It goes hand in hand.
Yeah, exactly. Talking about taxes a little bit now, because I've got a lot of viewers might be interested in that. at the moment, we got a situation in Bishopsgate where we always had access. Then with the LTNs, the mayor shut it all down. The taxi trade then had to go to court to get access to a road that, to my knowledge, has always been open. The 33 years I've driven a cab, it's always been open. There's never been any question of it, right? For you, if you become mayor, are taxis public transport or are they private vehicles?
No, they're public transport. They are part of the system. And it's shocking during the pandemic that the government and the mayor's office haven't assisted the black cabs, because even London Taxi PR Company had to run their own PR to like encourage people it's safe to use a black cab. So no, it needs to be integrated. They need to be supported. They're not being given the support that they deserve. And it's been going since the 1600s. Yeah. It's the most iconic trade that we have here. So why are we not protecting it?
But no mayor's ever protected the cab trade. When I say protected, I don't mean like, badly so. I mean everything that someone does, every cab driver, and you can sign on to do the knowledge, any colour, any creed, any sexuality, it is open to all. Anyone can do the knowledge, right? And then it's the most regulated taxi service. I done an FOI request a few weeks ago, and as you know, every London taxi is 100% wheelchair accessible. 100%. So it ticks that box for inclusivity for disabilities, okay? The FOI also told me that there's 90,000 minicabs in London, but only 0.004 are wheelchair accessible. And they're mainly the vans that would do school pickups, right? So when you look at what a black cab offers Londoners, complete transport inclusivity, we're not asking for anything like, do us a deal, Governor. All we're saying is, let's all obey the law and give us a chance. How does that sit with you? Does that sound like something you'd be happy to talk about?
It's something you shouldn't even be asking for. It's something that you should have. And that's why I plan to introduce a TfL app where you guys will actually be on that app and you don't need to pay any fees. It will only be for obviously a credit card, but you wouldn't have to pay 20% to other companies. But it'll be a booking system where Londoners can happily go in. Because let's face it, technology is here. People love to use their phone to book transport. And will TfL advertise that on the underground and everything? Absolutely. Yeah? I want to make sure black cabs are integrated into the system, promoted and supported. And you are part of the transport system. So therefore, that's why...
We can use the bus lanes and stuff like that.
100%. That shouldn't have stopped. 100%. That's something about the black cab. They get you from A to B the quickest. They've got the knowledge. Now, the knowledge, takes... Some people, it's usually around 4 years.
But unfortunately, the numbers are dying.
They are dying because the trade's dying, because no one's pushing into the trade. No. So we need to make sure we make it attractive, make people want to come back to getting into it. Because even from school, do ride-alongs.
Exactly what I was going to say. We're just talking about our youth, yeah? And for me, I grew up in an housing estate in Brixton, 6 of us, and I done the knowledge. And that gave me a real chance to be my own boss, right? Almost conservative values, right? That I worked hard, I become my own boss. I've got my taxi and that was me. That was my business. If I wanted to work 7 days a week, I could. If I wanted to have a morning off, I could. For me, for the knowledge and the cab trade to push forwards, we need to encourage youngsters, instead of saying, look, instead of going to college on a media course, if you do the knowledge, we get it accredited, then you can then be your own business. And the harder you work, the more you earn. Not the guy in the minicab office. Yeah,
it's a great business.
It's a great business.
And that's why we do need to, like, I want to do ride-alongs. I want to get from school people to understand the opportunities that are there for them. So it's also, we all know the youth, they like their tech. We can bring tech into the system so they can learn it as well in new advanced ways. So it's really about innovation. We need to innovate the trade But it also needs to work for everyone.
Yeah.
It's not affordable right now. For example, you know, electric taxis, they cost 65,000.
What would you do? Because at the moment, they brought in an age limit on taxis, and it was all linked with the emissions.
Yes.
Now, if you've got this electric taxi, great, emissions, why would you stick an age limit on that cab?
Exactly, you shouldn't. I plan to put it to 20 years
20 years.
because if it can pass each year, there's no reason why it should be on the road.
That's right.
No reason. So we need to, if we want to encourage people to use it, let's give them an incentive.
Because, like you said, you're from a business background, right? Unfortunately, people like Khan and people at TfL don't see it. But if you was going to make that jump financially into an electric vehicle, as you know, in business, it's got to work for you as well.
Exactly.
It's got to work for both sides. So if it become much more affordable, manageable, to finance a taxi over, say, the longer term, more people would buy the electric cabs, more cleaner cabs would come on the streets. It don't make sense, why not? And they've stopped us having Euro 6 diesels. But again, when I spoke to Sean Bailey a couple of weeks ago, at this moment in time, and Khan and Bailey going on about clean air, there's 9,000 diesel taxis, 42,000 minicabs are diesel, 9,042.
But they're penalising.
But they're blaming us for the pollution.
Yeah.
Come on.
I know, and restricting access.
They demonise us every time.
Yeah, they do.
So Farah for mayor,
Yes.
for the cab trade, age limit, you would say 20 years?
Yes, probably, absolutely.
You'd look for an app, TfL,
I want
the
to
app?
put that into an app so you don't have to pay, 15, 20% on your fares. You need to be integrated in the system, promoted. Things like what we've seen during the pandemic, Uber taking the NHS staff home, that should have been the black cabs.
Be nice if they paid their tax and VAT, then we could give the nurses a pay rise.
Exactly.
But hey ho, that's only facts. Well, that's really interesting, some of your plans and proposals for the cab trade. Regarding the new electric vehicles and drivers, you've also got another plan up your sleeve. What would you like to introduce?
I do, and because I get black cabs virtually almost every day, I speak to a lot of drivers, and some of them have actually been in the trade over 40 years, and they don't have an electric cab because they can't afford to get it. And they say, at my age, I can't get a loan like that, so what am I going to do? I'm stuck. And I actually want to give back to them. If you've been in the trade for over 40 years, we're going to gift you an electric cab. And then when you retire, you can return it back. But I think if someone's dedicated that much to the trade, they need to be rewarded.
So as far as mayor,
Yes.
Transport for London will get some of the cabs,
Yes.
and give them in, and then take them back when they
Exactly.
retire.
Take it back when retired, and it can go to someone else that's just hit that 40 mark. It's our way of saying thank you.
That's fantastic. I've got 7 years, then I'll be knocking at your door.
Brilliant. Look forward to seeing you.
Fantastic. You got a slogan, bring London back. What does that mean, Farah? What does bring London back?
I look back to when I was a child, and even when I had my career in the City of London, it had something inspiring, special about it.
Yeah.
And I really feel we've lost that. And I really want to bring that back, but take it to new levels as well. It's just not fair. I feel really sad for the youth now. They don't get to live that experience that we had. Even for opportunities, job opportunities are lacking, crime is at an all-time high. So we really need a mayor that has leadership and knows what to do. I'm very fortunate. I've been volunteering in the community for over 20 years. So I know at the grassroots, the problems that we face. My full manifesto has been written by the people because I've taken the time to go listen to them, to understand. And also working with them has helped me. Being in business has given me a special edge to understanding what we need to do to bring investment back into our city, to create jobs. We need a solid COVID recovery plan. We don't have a leader right now that is doing anything to let us know where we're going to go, what's going to happen, what's the plan. I plan to make London, Tech London, the largest tech city in the world after Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley's output in 2019 was 275 billion. Can you imagine if London became the largest tech city? We can create jobs, we can create business, we can create new opportunities. For me, I'm not looking at a mayoral budget. I'm thinking outside the box of what we need to do to generate more revenues into London to actually help the people of London.
That's great. When you just touched on tech, I've got to ask you a question. As we know, Uber lost a couple of weeks ago in the Supreme Court. So they have to adhere to workers' rights. Today they've come out and said, oh, no, what we're going to do is, we're going to have it where if only you, when you do a job, we'll give you that equivalent minimum wage. But if you're like normal, booked on and that waiting, you're not having nothing, right? Do you think any minicab or any company that comes into London with you as mayor, they have to treat everyone in a proper way, adhere to the law, not rewrite the law?
Absolutely.
You know?
And you know, you brought this up earlier. In 2018, we had 102,000 minicab services, including obviously the licensed one. 102,000. And around 80,000 of that is said to be Uber. We don't need very many private hires on our roads, and that's what's causing congestion and pollution. I will come and I will restrict licenses for private hire to make sure the system works. And also, no
one can earn a living, Farah.
You and I both know this. Anyone can get into an Uber and drive it. So someone could have a license with Uber, but they give it to their friend, their uncle, and they start driving. So I'm going to make sure every job is biometric. So if you want to get a job, you have to put your biometrics. So we know that person is driving, and I want people who are, working for Uber to do it full time. So they're not doing a 12-hour shift somewhere and just jumping into their Uber and putting people's lives at risk. We need to make sure things are safe. Things are done safely, and licenses need to be restricted because we do not need very many cars. And one thing I will be introducing is in Hong Kong and Monaco, Uber actually isn't allowed to even pick up in the key areas. So I will be putting a restriction on how many minicabs can actually pick up within the zones, like zone 1. So we need to put restrictions in place for safety.
Because it's like the Wild West there.
It is.
And
it's out of control.
We need regulations, and we need everyone.
It's working in other cities, so there's no reason why.
So why not London?
Exactly.
Okay. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you today, and I wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, there you go. What did you make of Miss Farah London? I thought it was really interesting. Lady Mayor, great background in business, great ideas for getting the youngsters into work and really building London as a real world global city. That's what we need. We need work, we need jobs, we need everything. So if you liked it as much as I did, watch the video, press the like button, press the subscribe and leave a comment. Tell me what you think of Miss Farah London.